Good day everyone, good day Sergio. This is the Group A reporting our research study. It is all about politics entitled The Impact of Negative Campaigning on Students' Political View. I am Famous Lata Bacalso, the leader of the group. We chose this topic, it's because we want to emphasize our perception in the previous election 2022. That's why we gave this opportunity to study. It's because this is also for our own good. And the title talks about how negative campaigning impacted us or affect us as a student. This issue will start if most people prefer to criticize others' political view rather than to accept them. It's simply because they oppose your chosen candidate, and it can lose lives. It can give us negative impact in the society. There is this person who committed suicide because he felt discriminated, and there is also this two person that argumenting during the election and leads to killing, and that is not a good moral lesson for us, especially first time voters. That is not a good role model for us because we could perceive election always as negative or unpeaceful. As your fellow citizen, if there is togetherness and acceptance, we would like to accomplish the cleanliness and peaceful voting. And I hope you understand our study, realizing that there is an importance in the study.
Negative campaigning is unquestionably one of the most distinguishing elements of modern elections. Public attention is drawn to negative campaign strategy, and negative campaigning are effective in either undermining perceptions of the target of the assaults or instead flounder on the benefactor. Negative messages come in a variety of forms. For example, distinguishments between distinct emphasis whether assaults are directed at the policy or the opponent's personal traits. We also learned about the consequences of negative political campaigns on students' political views. Negative campaigning is harmful to political systems because it makes them more fragile in a sense, and it can have an impact on the quality of representative democracy since it undermines political confidence. Since the perception of negative campaigning is linked to the types of assaults as well as voter personality attributes, negativity and incivility will remain on the voter's political stance, regardless of the civility and convincing campaigning, specifically on the student's political stance. This will affect the student's political stance negatively in the long run. So we, the researchers, propose courteous and refined criticism to generate a meaningful and rational political outlook for the students. For, as we all know, uncivil attacks will most certainly poison the political conversation.
Now, we must face the facts this negative campaigning is a tool for candidates. And based on USA, historically it is less negative, but the thing we must realize the election cycle up to 2012 was more negative than the previous. Amazing growth of negativity of election in the US. Based on data gear 2012, the presidential ads that were negative from 2000 to 2012, it raises up to 90%, up to percent. So in the USA pod na it is part of the norms na antod karon na pagyap ng negative campaigning. For me, for my opinion, dili na siya mawala. For the Philippines, election 2022, the advent of social media and negative news about the candidates, negative framing, people tends to remember the negative sides of the candidate rather than basing facts. In the online campaign, candidates are not the one who launches negative news, but rather the intermediaries. They hire influencers and content creators to launch the campaign that ruins the image of other candidates. So, based from USA and Philippines, it is part of the norm if you're kanang running the candidate, you use this negative campaigning is a powerful tool to manggod to run because according to psychology na people always kanang remember the bad side rather than the good side. Possible solutions by other countries and our countries on regarding the issue of negative campaigning. So how they combat or solve this issue. According to the California University. USA solution to shake negative campaign and embrace positive campaign. There are three solutions. First is to rename the issue. Renaming and relaunching the issue is one option. Liberates individual from their unfavorable perception of it and allows them to adopt this new positive perspective. Propose and be shiny and new. Another strategy to overcome negativity is to present voters with a new and accepted situation in which they gain significant amount of money. Ideas that captivates the imagination as massive gains with no bad connotations. Repeat the message. Stick to effective frameness. Positive for yourself and negative for others. Negative framing is like people tends to remember the negative side of the candidate rather than positive side. Negative campaigning is quite common. Is part of the kanang grabe naka Urag urag tool sila sa isa tool sa kandidato ba para pagdagan kanang desperado na jud mo daog. Philippines solution to negative campaign. To make positive difference by making a change for the candidate and the voters by starting positive. Break the cycle of discriminating and making fake news to other candidates. Second, being fair. It implies of all of us that being fair in doing things is sought to honest outcome. It prevents issues like recounting other conflicts that leads to prolonging the election. Be truthful and honest. We people of the nation want only best for the country.
A negative campaign results in negative feedback. When you do a negative campaign, you are trying to convince other people to hate or get mad on someone you are mad or angry with. But always remember, only small-minded people are the ones who will agree. Once you are doing negative, expect it result to a negative too. As we can see, negative campaigning may turn students out from the government. It makes them think twice about the election process in the end, and resistant to the government.
The impact of negative campaigning is bad since instead of voicing out or reaching out people to vote for their candidate because of his or her passion to serve his people and his country, it's the other way around. They use tactics just to bring down the other party. They use vulgar words or make false accusations that in their mind they will destroy and the image and reputation of their opposition, which will also confuse their voters. And students like me that doesn't want to hear those kinds of words will not vote for them. Thus, they will vote for the other party, which will lead to their loss.
Students continue to pay attention to negative campaign practices and questionable media election coverage. Students frequently express disappointments with the negative tone of campaigns, particularly in negative political ads. However, it is difficult to measure the impact of continuous students' exposure to unfavorable political advertising and poor public affairs media coverage. Scholars worry that the end of the result will be students who are frustrated and disinterested and unable to participate even in the most basic kinds of participation, such as voting. In negative campaigning, there are two basic forms of advertisements: attack and contrast. The negative aspects of the opponent are the only subject of attack commercials. Campaign advertising that attacks an opponent's personality, record, or opinion is the most common form of negative campaigning. One of the negative consequences students may encounter is it may lead to a change in their political views. As we all know from the past election, there is a lot of negative campaigning happen. Some of the candidates are throwing negative speeches to the other candidate. Maybe that is why there's a lot of students change their political point of view on choosing their candidate that will worth their vote. And some of the students become undecided till the day of the election and unable to choose a candidate to vote.
It's very alarming because a lot of students really take it seriously because they didn't accept the fact that their candidate didn't win, and they really believe that the candidate of their choice stating the fact without even proof or evidence that their negative campaigning to others is really true. So others really think about it, it's true. And then because of that, students really thought about it like they have no future at all. So that's why students should really know the limit of negative campaigning, and they should know what's the truth behind all of those their candidate is saying. That's all. Thank you.
One of the most common criticism of current political communication trends is that informative, policy-focused campaigns are being supplanted by negative, enemy-focused campaigns, although there have long been complaints about modern political campaigns in their media portrayal. Critics and concerns about absence of content in political discourse are now a major focus of democratic process evaluation. The main point of contention in these debates is how such political communication impacts citizens in their decisions, which are crucial to the democratic process. The main point of contention in the debates is how the political communication impacts citizens in their decision, which are crucial to be the democratic process.
A political campaign is an effort that aimed at influencing someone's choice or the decision of a certain group, whereas negative campaigning happens as well. Mainly, the most common problem of, or the most common medium of a negative campaigning is through political advertisements, where it focuses on negative aspects. Whereas advertisements can also change someone's perception, and it is highly important as well that we promote sportsmanship. However, as we've seen on the past elections, negative campaigning happens. This just recent election that we just did had, there is a lot of negative campaigning happen in here, specifically to one advertisements, where other opponents stresses out the flaws of the opponent or the left side, rather than the virtues that could impact someone's political view. And it is highly important that we are putting an action to it. For there's a lot of first-time voters that doesn't have any experience in voting. Well, we do have our own basis. Well, the main basis right here is through an advertisement, where we also see the advocacies of one's candidates. So we have, or a further research should be done for us to provide a real-time and a long-term resolution of a negative campaigning, and to promote as well as sportsmanship in elections. Thank you.